Welcome to Chapter 14. We're talking about mega sporting events in this chapter. First thing we want to mention is just kind of the benefits of international sports events as it relates to the host countries and the host cities. Many times you see in the news about mega sporting events such as the World Cup or the Olympic Games, and host cities spending millions and billions of dollars trying to build up the infrastructure and those types of things for the upcoming games. That's one of the benefits that many host countries get from hosting the games, is the money that's spent by the government and other organizations within that country obviously have new infrastructures. They're able to develop new public transit systems and also increase tourism to the country, which increases the economic value of the events. And so there's some positive things to mega sporting events. However, many of those are sometimes outweighed or looked at negatively when host cities decide to put in a bid because of the amount of money that's spent that could be spent on something else within the country. So, for example, if we look at international sporting events and new infrastructure, that includes typically new airports, new road systems, communication networks. So having more people in a city or a series of cities for an event causes a lot of traffic in both people as well as information. Public transportation systems, so rapid transit systems, are oftentimes added to communities, bus systems, those types of things. And then tourism. So, for example, in 2010, when South Africa hosted the World Cup, they had 350,000 visitors come to the country that arguably would not have if it wasn't for the event. And so as we look at this, marketers should be able to attract and persuade stakeholders in order to sell, so to speak, the events to the cities. And so stakeholders in this circumstance are any type of decision maker. So if we're saying hosting of sporting events, decision makers would be politicians, because many times they're the ones that put bonds or other type of fundraising items on government elections and things like that. Citizens are the ones who vote for those bonds and other types of finances, as well as the politicians that put those suggestions into place. Local businesses and corporations who invest in the games, and anybody else that really has a decision-making process in this mega sporting event. And so what we're going to talk about over the next couple of videos is a series of discussions about events and tours. So, for example, this first one, we're going to talk about mega sporting events. In the next video, we'll talk about single sporting events, then multi-sporting events, the tours, and then some factors that affect whether or not we can attract events to a host city. So let's start first with the different types of events. So whenever we look at events, they're all somewhat differently, and marketing them needs to be done differently as well. And a lot of it has to do with the size. And so there's four basic types. We're going to go through each one of these over the next few slides. But there are different types of sporting events. There are mega sporting events, hallmark events, major events, and local events. Starting first with the mega events. Mega events are defined as those events that are large enough to affect the whole economy by attracting sports consumers from around the globe. Mega sporting events would be things like the FIFA World Cup games, the Olympics, Winter and Summer Olympic Games, also Paralympic Games. Other events that are similar to that size and can bring people from around the world are what we consider mega events. This causes a lot of interest in the event. So viewership, for example. In the Olympics, Beijing ceremonies, 1/3 of the world's population watched the opening ceremonies in Beijing. That's 2 billion people watched the opening ceremonies in Beijing. That's a mega event. Also, not to mention the people that traveled to the event. So what are some of the advantages that this type of coverage, though 2 billion with a B, viewers of the Olympic Games? Some of the advantages is you're increasing the value of your sponsorships. As we talked about in the last chapter, sponsorship investment is a big part of the revenue sources for organizations. And adding eyeballs on sponsorships can increase their ROI and obviously their ROO as well. Some of the disadvantages, though, some of the issues that come from these types of viewership is you're limiting the ability to control ambush marketing. The more people you get into an event, the more likely ambush marketing can affect that type. So mega sporting events, as you can see, sorry, I got confused for a second. So mega sporting events would be those. We also have, Here we go. Hallmark events. Now we're on the right screen. Sorry about that. So hallmark events are events that align with the host city, region, or nation. In other words, the focus of the event is promoting the location. And so while the World Cup and the Olympic Games travel around the globe every 4 years or so, 4 to 2 years, depending on the event, those are mega sporting events. They are not tied to a specific location. However, hallmark events are. So again, it's part of the tourism action, but also the event is held there and is called or named after that location because of its importance to that location. So for example, the Wimbledon Games, the championship in Wimbledon, will always be at Wimbledon because that is the location. So hallmark events are essentially events that are made specifically for a location. Okay. Major events would be those that are big enough to attract visitors and media to the event, but may not be significant enough to affect the entire economy on either the spending or revenue side. So the primary type of event for these, what we consider major events, are what we'll define later on as IFs. In the Olympics chapter, we'll talk about IFs, which are international federations. International federation championships are those games that are specific to a sport. And so track and field championships, or like I have on here, beach soccer World Cup. That is an aspect of what we would consider a major event because it's a sport-specific event. So the U.S. track and field events, any type of Olympic qualifying events, any type of FIFA qualifying events would be considered our major events. Local events is our fourth one, and these are defined as small, but they're large enough to have some sort of local support. So it's basically anything that happens in the local community, small city, where people may come in from out of town to attend the event, but a large part of your event attendees are going to be local people. And so this would be, if you're from Nacogdoches, the Red Dirt and Mud Run in every year, 2017 was the logo I have up there. But the Red Dirt Mud Run is an event that happens every year in Nacogdoches that is put on by the Nacogdoches JCs. It is considered a local event because it is large enough that it gains a lot of local support, has about 1,000 runners, but the majority of those are local runners. And so these would be things such as local 5K, 10K races, any type of carnivals that have sports aspects to them, or festivals.